was just a matter of difference in wage scales.
So it's a little bit,
So there's a little bit of an increase there.
yeah, it's a little kind of difficult to compare it when the level of professional skill is
Financial operations, page 16. Very little change there in wages. Other items,
it represents increased uses of successful programs. But didn't we figure it was more or less budget neutral?
it really is.
Because, yeah, there's a van pool revenue line.
And then our last department in that expense category, operating expenses, is maintenance wages. We have a 13% decrease. Not quite the same as, say, in operations, but it's kind of an interesting thing that we still have the same needs to take care of those vehicles, even though we're decreasing, trying to cut back as best we can. But we still have the needs, the same vehicles and the same needs to service those vehicles. So that makes sense to me as well. So those are the operating expenses or appropriations. The next category, or subcategory there is capital appropriations. On page, I think it was page 4, we've already spoken about capital purchase of 4 light duty buses, and that's about $856,000. We're drawing another $75,000 in order to meet our capital expenditures out of our reserve. And so our total, if we add them together, our operating and capital appropriations, we have about $12 million there. And if we add and subtract the appropriate categories, we end up with available cash of about $270,000.
You're back to page 1.
Back to page 1, looking at projected working cash available as of 12/31/15 as about $273,000. If we add that to the reserve that we're expecting at the end of the year, $450,000, the total of $723,000. And that's in line with our TDP, our overall plan that we had approved earlier this year of having about that reserve. So that's in a nutshell, that's kind of the plan for 2015, the draft sheet of our 2015 budget.
And we haven't gotten into it very much yet, but we've also got some expenses that we're thinking that we might be able to cut in some of our operating expenses. We talked about several things that we might have an opportunity to look at that might be in the final budget.
We did talk about that, and I brought that to a number of our managers, and they're going through their budgets. It's interesting. We want to cut as best we can, and then I hear that voice on the other side saying, our buses are getting older. We haven't painted our Oak Harbor Transit Center for the last 20 years. So I'm hearing those things. We need to flush the gas tanks. I think that's $6,000 to do that. So, on the one hand, we're doing our best to make the cuts that we need in order to provide the service that we can provide. And on the other hand, there are real costs in order to do that. And managers are making me aware that maybe those cuts that we're talking about, we might be able to make some of them, but there are real needs to maintain the service. So I'm still waiting for some of that information.
So going back to the cash flow, as we look at the cash flow statement that I received on September 23rd, that goes through September 17th, are you stating that we were never negative?
I'm not stating that I agree with it. I stated it earlier. that we
Right,
would.
well, so did we receive dollars, but they were never deposited?
We didn't receive the dollars that we were promised under contract because of an individual at Washington State Department of Transportation, a project manager, had left his job and left that approval on his desk, or her desk, I'm not sure. So that document didn't get to their accounting department to write the check, to send us the check. So it was delayed approximately 2 weeks.
But we still generate checks on our end, accounts payable. How do we generate those checks without the dollars that we were anticipating?
Well, we can write checks and not send them, and that's what we did. We were proposing, we have these real bills that we have to pay, and our accounts payable department will write these checks, but before they send that out, it has to be cleared by myself to make sure we have the funds. At that point in time, when you got the document, or someone got that document, we were saying, wait a second, we didn't receive that revenue, so hold the check. And we did hold the check. And then when we got the revenue, we put it in the mail. So we can write checks and hold them if we need to. If the timing of the revenues is not matching the timing of the expenses. So that's what we try and do. We watch that. And if we forecast, hey, if we made those payments, we would be in a negative situation, then we don't get ourselves into that. We hold that. In this case, we held one check, fuel payment check for about 2 weeks.
And it was for about $60,000.
About $60,000. And so we didn't get into the situation, I think that I saw on the statement that was posted to the internet of being a -30. We just didn't get there because we tried to manage the situation.
And if, in fact, Scott had asked for the statement the next day and gotten it, it would have shown $180,000 revenue received, and so it would have been positive $140,000. So and so your assumption that at X point in time the transit system's in trouble is in error. I'm sorry. You can't just look at that document and make an assumption, I don't believe. There's more to it. It's another working document.
I think we all know that we're on a very thin margin right now,
Yep.
and that's what we're working really hard to address and rebuild that and restore, a healthier fund balance so that we don't have these constraints. But that's going to take time and hard work, and maybe a little less political posturing, but rolling up our sleeves and actually getting the work done here, I think would really help. And so I appreciate the constructive criticism, and I think we've all learned in hindsight some strategies that we can employ, and financial policies. I really want to add my congratulations and thanks to the finance committee who's put in an awful lot of time to help get us to this point. We have a lot more to do. We're not there yet, but this board operated for many, many years, long before any of us were sitting here, without a finance committee, and I think it's prudent and a good step for going forward that we've instituted that. I think that is a proactive step.
I'm happy you guys have the time and the expertise to share with our financial people. You get something from Paul, just brand new, and it's been he has taken on a heck of a project on his shoulders, and I admire him for this.
It's been a long way in a very
Sure
short
has.
period of time.
Yeah. And he's now on his own. The trainer we had is gone, so but he's got lots of support, and the board will give you support. I hope.
Just to clarify, you're a CPA, correct?
That's right.
Is anything in here deviating from standard accounting practices?
I think, well, this is the budget. Standard accounting is financial reporting at the end of the year. We use a modified cash basis during the year, just to watch our expenses from a management standpoint, and at the end of the year, we make adjustments to bring it to GAAP. And so, our statements are generally accepted accounting practices, and that's what the auditor wants to see. And so any adjustments that, for example, that were made at the end of this year, 2013, adjustments were made by another CPA, and that's what we're finally left with, and that's what we're reporting over the year. But, for example, our bond payments, note payments, they're showing up as expenses right now in our internal documents. The auditors wouldn't want to see it presented that way. So, there's different ways of looking at the information. The budget, there's this modified accrual system we use internally for management, and then there's the presentation that's made per GAAP for the auditors, so that everybody in the state's kind of on the same page. So, I hope that answers your question.
In an ideal world, we should have what in reserves as far as a cash balance?
Ideal.